don't identify what a brand and branding really means. If I could just ask you a question, what is a brand? Can anybody answer this for me, please? Do we know what a brand is? And what is branding? And how different is brand versus branding? It's a very, very, very little question with, a layman would say, Nike is a brand, McDonald's is a brand. There are many brands. They're all not brands. The key difference I would like to strike before I get into my topic, which is brand protection, creation, and recall, best practices and procedures, right? So what is a brand? Until and unless we know what a brand really is, we will not be able to deploy that into the industry for commercial benefits, right? So let me give you this difference between brand and branding, and I don't know if I'd be able to just put everything into your head for today. These are these little tidbits that I will tell you. So these are more like, when you study in an examination, right? You go to an examination hall. You don't remember the entire book. Rather, you remember each point and you elaborate on those points. So in the case you have a little bit of an idea of what that is, and in the case I'm not able to answer your question, I'd rather think that you can go and Google and find it for yourself, what those little tidbits really mean. So this is going to be the agenda of this 10-minute talk. Okay, so now back to what brand and branding is. Okay, since nobody's coming up to talk to me about brand and branding, can I ask a little bit of a more easy question, right? Can you design a brand? Those people who you think can design a brand, please raise your hands. I'm not raising. Nobody raises. Yes. You can never design a brand. So what is a brand? A brand is your identity. A brand is the person, the personality. The brand is not what you project to the audience. The brand is you. You can never design a brand. What you could do is you could create a brand. You could create a personality. You can't have other people design it for you. Hold that concept in for a minute. So what is branding? This is where the commercial aspect comes in. Branding is what you show as a brand to the commercial audience for a purpose. So there is a difference, brand and branding. So brand creation, before protection, I'll talk about brand creation, which is very, very important. Now, since I see a huge young crowd here, I also have an Instagram profile that's reaching good connects. So brand profiling, right? Branding per se is more like opening an Instagram account. Now, I give you these random examples, so, those key takeaways, just take it in your head, bury them in, and do your research online. So when you open an Instagram profile, what do? First thing you do, you open an Instagram account, not a profile, sorry. You open an Instagram account. First thing you have to do is you have to open a profile, right? That is brand. So you have a brand, you say, I open a profile, so my name is Preethi Kitchappan, there goes my photograph, that comes later. Before that, I give you the information about myself. So I am the brand, right? So brand creation best practices and procedures would then fall on you creating an identity. That's where branding comes in. Right, so Instagram profile, I open it, this is my brand, it's Preethi Kitchappan, then I create, Preethi Kitchappan itself is branding, right? Then I create my profile picture, then I give you a little gist about myself, and I say, okay, this is branding. What are the best practices? So once you create a profile, you have now branded yourself. This is branding. After that, what happens? You have to create something called an emotional connect with your audience. Now, basically, IPR is also a sort of science of intangible assets, I'd rather call it. When you think about these neurotransmitters in our brain, we all have a brain, And in the brain, there's a limbic system and there's a cerebral cortex system. So the minute you go to a market and you see many, vegetables, fruits, and for example, I love saris, so if I see a line of saris, immediately, if my limbic system connects me to that particular thing that I like, I am more inclined, although I came in with a bag to buy vegetables, I'm more inclined to go to that sari section because something pulls me in. People also tell me, sari pata chandramukhiya marirve appadinu. Why? Because something really clicks the limbic system and says that, look, there is something you really desire that is there. Why don't you go and have a look at it? So the purpose of branding should be to create that emotional connect between you and the person who's wanting to buy that product. Now, what happens otherwise? So for example, if you give me some cars, or I'm not very, fanatic about cars, or you give me some nuts and bolts and screws or hardware shop, my cerebral cortex only sort of understands what the shop is about. I don't want to go in there. I don't want to invest my time in there. I don't want to find a thing that I want to get in there. So when the cerebral cortex is opened up, the emotional connect between my intentions and the reason why I want to buy the product diminishes. This neuroscience has now actually has found a way into branding. They say when you're able to create that emotional connect between your person and your brand and branding, that is where successful branding comes into picture, right? So you create that emotional connect. Is that enough? No. You create a tagline, right? Just do it. Nike's tagline, L'Oreal, you're just worth it. Yeah, so these taglines they create to instill again that emotional connect where they say, once you hear that particular phrase, you will remember the organization that the tagline is associated with it. In TVS, we believe in the power of us. So we've created this tagline. So anywhere I see this phrase, believe in the power of us, I think of my organization, right? The values it instills in me. So now a tagline is created. I'm just loving it. Tagline of McDonald's, right? So immediately once you create a tagline, is that enough? How do you reach the brand to commercialize it, and how does success fall into play in branding? That's just not enough. You create something more of a human connect. So if I put a PPT on and I say, please buy my burger, McDonald's, nobody's going to buy, right? Or a watch, a Titan watch, or some sort of watch, or L'Oreal, some sort of a hair conditioner. If I just plainly write to you, buy my product, nobody will. Most of you are interested in Aishwarya Rai, so I'd rather have her as my brand ambassador. To say, L'Oreal, you're worth it. What are they trying to create? They're trying to create an emotional connect. They're humanizing the brand. They're bringing in a human element into the brand for you to recognize it. That's where I will talk about brand recall in a minute. Branding has so many processes and procedures that you follow. It is not simple. It is not you develop a business and you say, okay, so this is my brand. I want to sell my brand. I market it. Why is it not as successful as you'd want it to be? That is because you've not followed the best practices and procedures for branding. So we have business entrepreneurs here, and most of us would understand that all the successful organizations, like, for example, McDonald's is making it's the 6th largest consumer organization in the world. What has made them so very successful? Even in a crowded place, you see there's an yellow M, which says McDonald's. Everybody would understand that. And as Mrs. Lakshmi Devi has rightly said, jurisdiction specific. They have made sure that this brand is represented in each and every jurisdiction that they go to. That is where in America it's the same logo. Here it's the same logo. We all know, right? So these best practices and procedures will have to be followed for your brand to reach the audience. It's called brand management. It is a science in itself.